Marshmallow Fanboy, back with another review. This time I'm opening 5 different Storm Shadows over 3 different lines. I'm opening one from Mezco's 112 Collective, one from Super7's Ultimates, and 2 from the Classified series and one from Classified Retro, which was a Walmart exclusive, I think. So the thing that's special about the 112 Collective figure and the Super7 Ultimates is these are the first 2 that I'm ever opening. I don't generally get the Mezco ones, and I don't generally get the Ultimates ones. The Ultimate ones I've been getting just because some of my favorite characters are being released in that style, and I really like them. And Hasbro didn't have a cartoon version at the time. Now, of course, they're coming out with a mass device one, and I've got to get those. The Classified series is my main collection, but I could let things like the Ultimates kind of fall by the wayside if they're not as whelming as I think they'll be. But the 112 Collective figure has a ton of accessories, changeable heads, just all kinds of things that I'm not familiar with. Some of these might be to you like, yeah, it's a Mezco figure. Of course it has X, Y, and Z, but I don't know what to expect. It's my first time with a Mezco figure. Same with an Ultimates figure. I sort of know what to expect a little bit better from that because I have seen it without the kind of the lid on. I have seen sort of this part, and I like all of the accessories. Has the exposed Arashikage logo. The sword, I don't know what it's from, but I know everything in here is cartoon accurate, and I really appreciate that. The change of hands, which the Mezco one had a ton of change hands too, I thought. Yeah, they're all up here. So 14 interchangeable hands compared to 2, 4, 6, 7. So twice as many interchangeable hands, so twice as many options. But that cartoon likeness is really amazing. I like that a lot. Just a really expressive glare. The throwing stars are really cool. That's a real chain on the nunchucks. And like I said, I don't know what the sword is from. I wish the back would say, like, this is what happened during the episode, and this is what this is, and things, because you could sort of drive yourself nuts trying to research or watch old episodes just to see what the crystal sword does. But it still is really cool. Oh, he's got like a soft goods robe or something in the back. Maybe. No, that's just the white of the explosion in white. I thought that was like a cloak or something. Nope, I was wrong. So that's him. Let's see, for Hasbro's part, we have the newest Storm Shadow, the kind of the gray camo gear. I got this in the mail maybe a week or so ago. The Storm Shadow, of course, I got when it first came out. Disappointingly, it was not the very first Storm Shadow. The very first Storm Shadow was that Amazon exclusive Arctic Threat Storm Shadow, the one with the kind of the black with the stars and things. It was a cool design. It was one of the last Storm Shadow figures we got on the way out of the old series I think maybe that came out in the beginning of the 90s or something. And then, of course, the retro one. The retro, the only difference I can really see is maybe he has 2 more hands here, and he has no hood, some stuff like that. But basically, that is the exact same figure, except that this is a brighter white than this. This has been dulled down a little bit, and this one is back to the factory settings. Plus the everything is the same from then on. The wrappings on his arm are a little bit dimmer than these. These are a little brighter white, but for the most part, it looks like the only change is to really brighten the figure, take away some things and add other things. The hands, there could be some hands in that package somewhere that I don't see, but I don't think so. So those are the 5 Storm Shadows, and Storm Shadow is one of my favorite characters. So when it came out to the 112 Collective and it came out to Ultimates, I had to get them. Plus, the Ultimates have not been selling real well the first maybe 2 waves, so Big Bad Toy Store has been blowing those out at about $27 a pop, which is about as expensive as a Hasbro figure. Because for the price point of these, it goes from the Mezco figures are about 100, these are about 55, about half of that, and then the Hasbro figures are now $25 each. That's half of that. So it gets exponentially more expensive the farther up you go. You go from the classified series to Ultimates, it's twice as much. If you go from there to the 112 Collective scale, it's 4 times as much. So it's kind of depends on your price point, what you're collecting. And I know some of you are collecting everything, and that's awesome. And right now, sort of grudgingly, I'm kind of collecting everything, but I'm trying not to. I skipped the 112 Firefly. It's the only one I think I don't have Duke too. I think I don't have Duke or Firefly. I sort of stopped because I think I got Destro and Roadblock and Storm Shadow, and then Snake Eyes. I got Snake Eyes with Timber, and that was it. And I think I have drawn a line. I didn't order the last wave of Ultimates either, so I am trying to exercise a little self-control. But where it comes to Storm Shadow in the original white costume, whether he's this or whether he's animated or whether he's, he's Mezco scale, and he looks a little bit of the modern mixed with classic. I just, Storm Shadow is awesome. I could probably do without the gray and white one, and the Arctic Threat one I didn't super like the uniform on. I wish I had the Arctic Threat one. I didn't think that was gonna sort of sell out forever, but I did order one, and then I promptly put it in a box somewhere for safekeeping, and I lost track of where he's at. So he's floating around somewhere. So this is how the figures look in their packages, but why don't we break these guys out and see what we think of them in person? Okay, now that they're all out, let's take a closer look at each one, starting with the most recent one, the Storm Shadow in the camo gray. He has 2 fists and 2 sort of motioning hands, and I left the grabby hands in his hand so that he could wield the Wolverine claws, which are very cool, but he has to have they don't slip sort of over the wrist or anything. He's actually holding on to those with his hands. Very cool. The sheath for the 2 swords, the belt, I don't know if that comes off. I'm sure if you take the torso off, everything comes right off. The backpack plugged right in. The bow, where did the bow go? Ruh-roh. There it is. It dropped off the back. I put it back on. There's these 2 sort of pins here, and they just kind of hang. I haven't found a place to sort of securely put it, but I just have it sort of lay on the backpack. Okay, I stripped most of the gear off. I left the swords in, but the backpack is off. I want to show you the Arashikaji logo, as well as kind of how tough his eyes are to see. I think the hood is glued to the head on this one, so you can barely kind of see the eyes, but you have to be sort of angled up to see them. You can't just sort of be above the hood and look at it. It's got the cool red hits. It's got a harness that has a lot of red detailing, which the 3 3/4 inch figure did not have. Red around here. It's just really nice touches to a figure that I get a lot of people were like, I don't need this one. This isn't my favorite Storm Shadow. It's, not the one that people like the most, and I don't know if anybody likes anything but the classic white uniform, which is well represented by the other 4. But I like it. I like it. It was a moment of time where, I'd worn out the Storm Shadow figure, and then the second version comes out, and I go, well, it's Still Storm Shadow, just in a different uniform. And that is Storm Shadow in the gray camo. And here we have mainline Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow, the second one that came out, I think after the Arctic one and before the retro one came out. Very cool. Comes with a sword. Comes with two swords. The bow, and he comes with one arrow that goes right into the quiver back here. He also comes with a tassel that attaches to the back of his belt for a little bit of a added flavor there. He also came with a hood that you have to take the head off to put inside, but he comes with of course, the hood down piece, which he has there. This is a solid Storm Shadow, a very solid Storm Shadow. Whether you can really have either the retro or the regular release of Storm Shadow, and you have the perfect Storm Shadow. I don't think you need both figures, but if you were leaning toward getting one, I would get the retro one. And the reason is, while the retro one lacks the hood, it does make up for extra hands. It has a throwing star hand that is outstanding, and he has a fist, one fist for punching. So he has sort of the ability for extra expression, and he comes with the super cool action figure stand, which is, in my opinion, would make all the figures better. An action figure stand would be awesome. But he comes with everything that the other one has. The two swords, the bow and arrow. The arrow I couldn't make fit in the quiver, so it's kind of sticking out. But he also has the hood down piece here. The only thing he doesn't have is a hood. But for the action figure stand, the two extra hands, I say you don't need the mainline figure. You could just get the retro, and it has everything except for the hood. But it's very cool. It's a super solid figure, and it most reminds me of the original 80s release. Super7 Storm Shadow comes with a ton of things. He didn't come with it. I took off his arm that had the exposed Arashikaji logo, so I just have that kind of left over. He has a number of different hands. I won't go through all of them, but there's some for gesturing. There's some, of course, that are meant to pull the bow back, meant to kind of knock the arrow. He's got throwing stars. I didn't see a place on him where there were, things for the throwing stars to go on to his uniform or anything. So I think they're just meant to be held by hands or anything. This mask is either like a kind of, it looks like a face shield for fencing, but it has sort of an air tank. So it's either an underwater thing or an outer space thing, depending. And of course that sword, the bejeweled sword, could be from outer space. I don't remember the episode. He's got a knife. He's got the bow, which is really nice long bow. Very simple because it was the cartoon. Nunchucks with the chain. I put the sniper rifle in his hand, which is very cool. I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to take the sword off. The sword is substantial, has some heft. It isn't easy to bend. It'll store really well, I feel like. It has the jewels and the hilt. The paint is really nice on it. Just a really nice accessory for Storm Shadow. Feels really, really solid. As far as the back goes, the arrows are all separate pieces. They all come out. The swords come out. But the rig itself is onto the harness in a way that I'm not sure if it's glued on, but it's not posted in the back. It's not coming out. And that's a shame because you'd like to take that off. You could without taking the centerpiece off. I do like the size of the Cobra logo. The Cobra logo on the rest of them is so very, very small, and I like the large size Cobra logo on this one. It's very cool. And of course, like I said, I got the Arashikaji right on the arm, the exposed arm, which is cool. There's seems to be a little bit of space right here for maybe one extra throwing star. I wonder if these come out. No, they're molded in. But you could probably put one of the throwing stars in between these so that he could take it out. And maybe this hand, well, no, it does the sniper rifle, but maybe one of the hands holds the throwing star very well. And it does. You can put it in where the knocked arrow hand is. You put it right between the fingers, and that holds the throwing star well. And that is the Super 7 version of Storm Shadow. It's a really sharp looking figure, lots of really cool accessories. For Mezco Storm Shadow, he stands just about the 112 scale. He's in line with the GI Joe Classified series figure. He didn't look out of place standing next to all the other Storm Shadows. He looked like Hasbro might have created him themselves, but they did not. So let's go over the gear. The gear has a, you know, sort of a clip on for the sword. So the sword came in a separate piece as the quiver, and you have to snap it into place, and then you have to put it on the belt around his shoulder, which wasn't easy. There's two sort of things you have to kind of line it up and get it in. I'm not sure why this part is hollow. Maybe something goes in there. Maybe. No idea what goes in there. But the swords go in here, of course. He's got one in his hand. And I'll show you the accessories in a minute. The accessories are very complicated. There's so many of them. I got a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, this guy doesn't need butterfly joints. His arms stretch all the way back, which is really cool. I often wonder why Hasbro figures can't get all the way back there like that. And he's doing it with soft goods. And he's got a little bit of the ability to kind of mold that clothing. So I don't know if there's wire. I know there's wire in the hood. And I got that hood up, and I'm super happy with it. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe not here. Maybe it's just very stiff and sort of mimics it. But the arm gauntlets are very cool. The gray and the black adds a pretty good contrast, and he's double jointed. Of course, you can't see any of the seams to anything because of the clothing, but he's got a really good range of motion. I'm sure somebody out there has already stretched him out to see what the max is for everything. He has a nunchaku holster, which I'm sure can house other things besides the nunchakus, but well, I should call them nunchucks, because that's what I'm more used to. Nunchucks. Nunchakus feel so weird. He has little spaces where he can hold the throwing knives, and I didn't open the pack that had the littlest items in it, but you can see that there's little posts. I don't know if you can see the little kind of raised posts where you can put some of the throwing knives. I think you could probably put throwing stars too. I mean, why wouldn't you be able to? The ports are probably all the same size. Like I said, no hole in the soft goods, but there are two things you have to line up on the harness to get the quiver on. It's very cool. He's got knee pads. The knee pads feel like they can come off. They feel like they're just elastic. You probably slip them on, slip them off, whatever you want to do. But they probably help Storm Shadow stand up when he's kneeling so that you can take better shots with him. The boots are really cool. Look really, really nice. There's a little bit of tread on the bottom. It just looks really cool. I like the logo. The logo is a little bit obscured by the harness. Let me see if I can work that out. Yes, I can. That's perfect. And it's just as little as sort of the Hasbro one is, which is okay. I get that that's sort of the standard size. The Cobra logo is not enormous, but I like how big it is on the Ultimates figure. So let's get into the accessories, because there is a lot to talk about there. First, there's a flight stand with a hyper-articulated arm. Kind of goes right onto the base, and then you can pose your I'm sure this goes right on the base, right? Is that how that works? Okay, I didn't find a place to put the armature on the base. There's a peg that sticks up that goes right into the foothold, but there isn't any holes in the base where I can put the armature. And there's no hole in here. This is meant to insert into something, not meant to have something inserted into it. So I'm not sure why they included it with it, except maybe it's a force of habit and they include it with all of them. But there's no place to put it. This kind of is it's cool, but it's essentially worthless if there's no way to sort of mount it to the base. It does come with instructions. I saw that the bottom of it is for the storage for arrows, wakizashi, adechi, and hand scythes. I don't know what any of that, what some of that is. And the throwing knives can be stored on harness, but sure, it can also be stored on harness. The bow is foldable and can collapse, though you don't want to bend it and force it. You sort of want to bend it to the side a little bit, and it has some sort of mechanism where if you get it just right on the side, it comes down. Smoke bomb throwing FX. Throwing FX tension fits to open hand as illustrated above, and fits to open hand as illustrated above, and deflecting FX tension hits to sword as illustrated above. There's two different shuriken hits, and they both sort of do different things. One is sort of a deflection and one is a throwing. So let's do that. They give you a plastic bag to put all of the little accessories in, which is very appreciated. I didn't open the thing with the tiniest of pieces for obvious reasons. I didn't want to lose them. So I'm going to keep those in for, I don't know, 10, 20 years. With the bow, it has a collapsible feature. You put a little pressure right on it and it collapses. I'm sure there's a trick to getting it to kind of let go. I'm not sure what that trick is. But yeah, it collapses, and then to put it together, you just do that, and it's mostly stable. It's not going to collapse on you. Okay, he has two swords, which go into the backpack. He has an extra head. The only thing that I could figure out was this one is kind of a neutral expression, and the one that I put on him right now is sort of a ferocious expression. Like this one is all business, but this one is just paying attention to a briefing. And see, this one is just a civilian head. It came with this one on, so I took it off and put the more determined one on. Let's see, the hands, he's got 1,000 hands, so I won't go over them exactly. He's got throwing star hands, and I won't go over those either. But he does have like a smoke bomb throwing thing that plugs into one of his hands, or he can be deflecting a smoke bomb with his sword. You can plug it onto the sword too. And here is the kind of the throwing star one. So this one is more of a throwing star one, and this one's more of a deflecting throwing stars one. But he does have hands. I do have to show you the hands because some of them have smoke bombs in them. They're molded in them. This is kind of a claw hand. That's a hand you don't want to get hit with. Let's see. See, no, nothing in that hand. It's really cool. He has one smoke bomb hand for each hand. Here's one. Has a smoke bomb in the hand. So he has one of those for either hand. And of course, tucked underneath his fingers are more smoke bombs. So that's very cool. He could be holding one smoke bomb and he could be throwing the other smoke bomb with his other hand. Boosh. He's got size, which I imagine could go in the backpack in either direction. If these can also go back there as per the instructions. He's got, let's see, throwing star hand. If you just put it on the thumb, it attaches to the thumb, and then you have throwing star effects. And you can even cheat them a little bit, move them just a little bit. Oh, that fell right off. I guess you could also put them over the finger, slip them over the finger too. Or do they go over both fingers maybe? Yeah, it goes over both the fingers. So it goes over one finger here and between this one. That is very stable. Very cool. So just play around with that a little bit. Also goes on the sword to deflect. And there it is, deflecting the sword blast. You just have to sort of figure out where it clips to and have really good vision. And that does it for Mezco 112 Collective's Storm Shadow and the rest of the Storm Shadows. If you have the retro Storm Shadow, I still stand by, you have the perfect Storm Shadow. You have an amazing Storm Shadow. But if you want the gear, if you want a cartoon style, absolutely GI Joe Ultimates until Hasbro starts making cartoon versions of everything, which I'm sure will just be repaints and will be less sculpting. And the Ultimates are sculpted in that older style, so they more fit that animated series. I don't think that Hasbro is ever going to be strictly animated. I just think they can make the colors simpler and they can make the design sort of match better, but they're not going to change the hyper detailed figures. And the not 112, the Ultimates figures are more molded to be the animated series. So those are cool. And the Mezco ones are just sort of next level in every way. I think they are they're absolutely worth the money. I get that they're expensive, but they're soft goods. You don't see any seams. These are great for probably photographs look really amazing with these guys. And it comes with 7,000 accessories. And it comes with a baggie to keep those accessories. And you gotta love that. I don't know about this extra post thing. I don't know what to do with it or what the vision for this was. I don't see anywhere you can possibly put it. Maybe the bottom part comes off or something, and then you can put it in the thing. I'm not really sure. It's my first Mezco post thingy, so I'm not sure. But all 5 Storm Shadows really cool. I liked the gray camo one and the mainline release less than I liked the retro one, but I really did like the Ultimates version. I didn't like that you couldn't take the backpack off. I thought that was not good planning. I understood you probably don't want a body with a hole in it, and I kind of get that, but no way to get the backpack off. It seems like it's impeding the amount of display options you have with the figures, and it's impeding the types of pictures that you can take with it. The Mezco one, the backpack's hard to put on the strap. It's hard to line up the holes. It could have been a little nicer to put in. Could have been, I don't know. There's so much stuff to it, and I think that if you have patience, and most of you do, absolutely, to put all that stuff together, you are going to be real happy with this Mezco one. He's just really cool. It's my very first Mezco figure that I've opened. I'm just real happy with it. Real happy with it. So until next time, try to get these. I think you can still get the retro one for a good price. The Ultimates one is probably on sale somewhere, and the Mezco one might be just gone. But if you could find it at a show or a Comic-Con, consider picking it up. And until next time, enjoy your toys.